So I actually think President Obama would have said yes to Keystone. I think he was intending to put it off until after the election for obvious reasons, because there's a fair number of his constituents that don't like it. But I actually think the reason it didn't get passed is because the Congress was unreasonable and gave him a deadline that nobody could possibly meet in a responsible way, so they essentially forced him to block it. I don't think Keystone is an election issue, except in states where he's going to lose anyway, like Wyoming. But
and to the environmentalists, to his constituents.
Oh yes, yeah, it is, and that's an enthusiasm issue. They're not going to be voting Republican.
Right.
So my own view of Keystone is that it actually didn't get built because the Republicans shortened the approval time as a partisan matter, and he wasn't. No reasonable person could meet an approval level, and it actually gave him an excuse not to approve it, which gives him the out that he needs until he deals with it after the election. But I suspect it'll be approved.
You expected if Obama wins re-election that he'll approve?
I expect it'll be approved no matter who wins the election.
Right. Romney has already promised to approve it.
Right.
Do you think that it should be built?
Well, I think the issue for me is not the oil sands. The oil sands are going to be developed one way or the other. We have no say over that. And if they're not, if the oil from the oil sands is not developed, it's going to be, if it's not sent to the United States, it's going to be sent to China. And they're already planning the pipeline over the Rockies to Vancouver or some port somewhat north of that to export the oil to China. So for American environmentalists to think that by blocking Keystone, they're going to stop the oil sands from being developed is just nuts. It's not going to happen that way. The issue for me with Keystone is the safety issues. There have been some significant safety issues in terms of ExxonMobil up across the Yellowstone River. The interesting thing is, and this is not meant to be partisan, but it is a fact that the Republican governor of Nebraska was the one that actually put the kibosh on the Keystone by making them reroute it because they were fearful of the Oglala aquifer. So I think the Keystone Pipeline ought to be evaluated as a pipeline, and I think it ought to be separated in the minds of the environmental community from the issue of developing the oil sands, because it is separated. There's nothing the American environmental community is going to do that can stop the development of the oil sands. The question is who gets the oil, the Americans or the Chinese?
And I believe the Americans ought to get the oil and the jobs related to it. This is not government money. These are jobs people can get put to work immediately. You have the unions that support it. You have people across the country support this, and you have the Democrats running for the Senate in Montana and in North Dakota supporting it. So when you asked earlier geography versus partisanship, again, geography is playing a major role.